a month after Nixon resigns, Gerald Ford pardons him. And all of a sudden, these questions are raised. Wait, was there a deal here? Did Nixon and Ford get together, or maybe through intermediaries? And did Ford say, Dick, if you resign, then as president, I'll pardon you. You're not going to have to go to jail, which by this time was a real possibility. Now, there's no evidence that anything like a deal occurred. And in fact, it strains the imagination to think that there would be anything explicit. However, it's entirely possible that Nixon reasoned the way that Ford subsequently reasoned, and that is, from a constitutional standpoint, the big deal is that this president is no longer president. Now let's move on. And that's, in fact, precisely the argument that Ford made in justifying the pardon. Now, the short-term consequence of this was relief in the country and a sense that, okay, yeah, we can move past Watergate. And so, in the short term, Jerry Ford's decision was good for the country. In the slightly longer term, it was bad for Jerry Ford, because it meant that there was no way he was going to win in 1976. And in fact, even with the bad news about Richard Nixon, Ford could have been the favorite going into the election of '76, because if you look at the electoral map of 1972, the Republicans had this huge majority, and a lot of those states would still vote for a Republican, especially if the Republican's not Richard Nixon anymore. So it cost Jerry Ford a lot in the short term to make this decision, but I really don't get any sense that he agonized over it much. It was the right thing to do, and it might cost me the presidency, but I have never said that the presidency is my highest goal in politics. So he makes the decision and he abides by the outcome. Now, and I should say that for the next 45 years, a general belief in the public at large was it was probably a good idea. Ford's decision was right. But for reasons that you might very well appreciate, in the last 5 years or so, people have started to think, you know, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, because we are still in a confused state of mind about whether the President of the United States can be prosecuted. Is the President above the law or not? We've never tested it. And if there ever was going to be a clear test, that would have been the time. So whether Gerald Ford's decision to pardon Richard Nixon was good for the country seems a little bit less clear now than it did then.